Good go. Keep in mind, it's Cruisers Week in Ocean City, and they have the special event zone in place. Speed limits are reduced by 10 miles an hour all throughout town. Looking good as we travel along in Wicomico County on 50 from Willits to Pittsville over to Parsonsburg, bypass around Salisbury Good, and 50 good to the Bay Bridge. That's your traffic for the Voice Radio Network.
Federal Prosecutor John Gleeson, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. It's Bill and Jessica, Power 1017. Thank you so much for checking in. Federal prosecutor, federal judge, practicing defense attorney. You've done it all, man.
You're pretty important.
Absolutely. So for people who don't, know who you are, give us a little rundown of, your accomplishments and your career and, what you're currently doing at this moment.
Yeah, sure. Look, the book is about a 10-year slice of life at the beginning of my career as a lawyer. I was a federal prosecutor for 10 years, prosecuted John Gotti twice. Then I was a federal judge for 22 years in the same courthouse in Brooklyn. Now I'm a practicing defense lawyer in New York for the last 6 years. And look, I just got this book out. Life got in the way, right? I raised my kids. I was on the bench, but I finally got a book about my experiences investigating and prosecuting John Gotti and the people around him over the finish line, and I'm really grateful to you for having me on your show.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The Gotti Wars, taking down America's most notorious mobster.
Wow.
We'll get a little bit into John Gotti in a sec, but I got to ask you, you're a practicing defense attorney, you take on new clients? Like, are you still going to court or are you just strictly in the office and you have other lawyers doing that for you?
I'm back. I was a trial lawyer before I became a judge. I'm a trial lawyer now, so I'm back in court.
Okay.
I do a lot of criminal defense, and I do a lot of commercial litigation, but mostly criminal defense.
Right. Wow. All right. Well, I do have a couple questions for you, because I know you've, spent a lot of your career, taking down the mob and, the mafia, etc. The way that the mafia / mob is portrayed on TV, okay, and in movies,
yes,
The Sopranos or Robert De Niro, Al Pacino. I mean, how similar is that to real life?
Real life.
Can you kind of break that down in a minute or two? Like, how similar is that to the way it was operating back in the day?
It's as similar to real life as night is similar to day.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Really? Yeah, okay.
As a culture, we belong on a therapist's couch when it comes to outlaws generally, right? Going back to Jesse James and Bonnie and Clyde, and the mob, La Cosa Nostra specifically, obviously going back to The Godfather and Tony Soprano. And, we saw this when I was head of organized crime in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn. I had 20 lawyers working with me. We saw it at the time. People see in gangsters what they want to see. They superimpose their own views. We were convicting members of John Gotti's crew for heroin trafficking at the same time that the people out in Queens were saying he was cleaning up the streets from drugs. It was a complete disconnect. But, that's the way we are. We have a fascination with outlaws. Everybody who turns square corners and pays their taxes has this kind of romanticized view of guys who thumb their nose at the system. But the difference, as I say, it's night and day. There's no such thing as men of honor, codes of conduct. They're a bunch of treacherous, murderous criminals.
Okay, so
in real life.
Now, like you said, I was a big, fan of The Sopranos. My favorites are Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, James Gandolfini. Being as though you spent your whole career, a lot of your career trying to take those guys in real life down. The mobsters were you all, but you're also a New York guy. So are you a fan of the Hollywood mob movies, and are you a fan of The Sopranos and some of those TV shows and stuff like that, or are you like, nope, it's not real, I'm gonna stick to the real life stuff?
No, sure I was a fan. I grew up. I'm of the age. I grew up on The Godfather.
Okay.
When I was in law school, I wanted to be Tom Hagen. So yeah, of course I'm a fan.
Okay.
But that because I'm part of the same society you guys are. But the difference between what we see, at Don Corleone's daughter's wedding, and what I listened to on the tapes and what I saw in the courtroom when I was proving people guilty of crimes is like it's the Grand Canyon. It's just, we want to see that in them, and that's okay. And look, I got a book out, and that fascination with the mob has a lot to do with the appetite for a book like mine. So
right.
Who am I to complain about it?
Again, John Gleeson's on the hotline. The Gotti Wars taking down America's most notorious mobster. I'm like really, fascinated with everything that you got going on. So real quick, talk to us a little bit about the difference between like how it was back in the day and like, is there still like a mob out there today? Is there still like someone who's the boss and someone who, like controls like different areas? And is it or is that kind of dissipated and it works all different in 2022?
Yeah. Is the mob completely gone? No. Is it just a shell of its former self? Yes.
Okay.
Does it have the grip on the labor unions that allowed it to make all the money through labor racketeering? No. That's ended.
Right.
So there's still some gangsters out there, but not very many. And, there's one way to put it. When I was running the organized crime section in Brooklyn in the early 90s, the FBI had 8 full squads in New York devoted solely to La Cosa Nostra. There are only 5 families. And now there's half a squad that's devoted to investigating LCN. So it's not like we're not paying attention and they're below the radar. It's just it's not there to the degree it used to be.
Right.
John Gotti and Sammy Gravano flipping brought an end to the mob as we knew it.
Well, you had 2 big trials that you went up against the Gottis, John Gotti. Can you kind of give us like a quick take on each one, and like what was the final on each one?
Sure. The first one was a complete disaster, 7 months long, and they called the defense witness who accused me of dealing in drugs in order to get perjured testimony. And everybody was acquitted. All defendants acquitted of all charges. Worst outcome, worst day of my professional life.
And then you went back to trial.
What turned out to be 3 loose ends. One was John Gotti needed to be convicted. Another was that defense witness who lied about me and accused me of crimes needed to be convicted. And then I found out 4 years later there was a juror on the payroll in that first case, and he needed to be convicted.
That's crazy.
Fast forward to the end of my career as a prosecutor, we tied up those loose ends. We convicted John Gotti of the murder of Paul Castellano and 4 other murders. We convicted that defense witness who lied about me, and I actually testified in a trial in which the juror who was purchased in the first case was convicted of obstructing justice, taking a bribe.
Did you ever have to go undercover?
So I kind of tied up all the loose ends and went on the bench.
Did you ever have to go undercover?
I had a bodyguard for a while. Because
okay.
Bodyguard.
I bet.
Yeah,
Wow.
But only for a while. And everything's fine.
Wow. All right. Very good. Well, look, again, we're looking forward to checking out your book, The Gotti Wars, Taking Down America's Most Notorious Mobster. How can people pick up the book?
Anywhere they buy books. You can buy it online with Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any other online bookseller, or go to your local bookstore. It's available everywhere. And I'm really grateful to you guys for having me on your show so I could talk about the book, and grateful for your listeners for listening in.
Well, we really appreciate it. Absolutely. And real quick, you would be an expert. Who's your fave? Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, James Gandolfini. Who's your favorite? Or you can, give us one that I didn't name.
Oh, you got to pick Robert De Niro playing the guy, the real life character was Jimmy Burke.
Okay,
That's
all
the
right.
character
Nice.
Robert De Niro played in Goodfellas. You got to go with De Niro, right? And you got to go with De Niro and Godfather too, right?
De Niro guy. There you go. See, I'm an Al Pacino guy, but I like them all. I like them all. It's tough. It's tough. Hey, thank you so much for checking in, John. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a million for having me.
Have
Okay.
a great day.